Hey everyone, how's it going? Are you scared? Is Bitcoin worrying you at the moment? Is the world coming after it? Is the world attacking it? Are governments going to do a bunch of punitive legislation which is going to hurt Bitcoin? Let me tell you, if you're worried about it, if you look at developments in the news that appear negative to Bitcoin and it worries you and it makes you think, I might sell some, like don't worry, you're completely wrong and you're viewing this whole thing with the most upside down mentality possible, but don't worry about that because everyone does that. It's hard not to. Most people still do it even if they've been in the space for years. I'm telling you, it's taken me 10 years to learn that what's bad is good and what's good is bad, because that's the nature of anti-fragility. Now, we have millions of examples of this. We have the earliest that I can remember was Mt. Gox collapsing. We had some drama before that, of course, but Mt. Gox collapse was... In fact, no, before Mt. Gox collapse, we had an accidental fork that happened that went on for about 6 blocks, 2 different chains. We resolved it, it was fine. The price went down a bit and we went back up. Mt. Gox collapsed. 85% of all Bitcoin trading, the exchange responsible for that, went down. Massive scam. They blamed Bitcoin for the loss. They said there's a bug in Bitcoin. This is why we didn't get hacked. It wasn't our fault. It totally was their fault, but they gave us a kicking while we were down. We crashed. It was horrible. 2014 was horrible. We survived. Then we survived Gavin Andreessen and Mike Hearn saying, you're going to have big blocks. We are in charge of Bitcoin. We survived that too. Then we survived the remainder of the big block war, which was the fork size, what do we call it? The block size war. Check out the book, check out my video, Fork Wars. We survived the worst. We've survived every level of attack. But here's the deal. What people don't seem to understand is that these were all good for Bitcoin. They demonstrate anti-fragility. If you didn't see any of these events, you would just think, oh, Bitcoin's, it seems really cool. It seems strong. It seems resilient. But I hope, we carry on getting lucky. That's not something you can seriously invest in. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way. The reason Bitcoin is worth financial commitment is because every time it encounters a problem, it demolishes the problem and goes, don't worry about it. We will survive. So here's the seemingly good situation that's actually bad. China being cool about mining and saying, here, everyone mine, 60% of the world's Bitcoin miners. Do it here. We'll even subsidize you. Go and mine. You have free electricity. That apparently was a good thing because we did it for years. We got attacked a lot over it. But, apparently it was great because when they kicked all their miners out and turned nasty, everyone was like, that's terrible, and the price fell. In my opinion, that was the good thing, because I didn't want all my mining happening in China. I wanted it happening everywhere else. I don't want an authoritarian regime having, at least some leverage over one part of the ecosystem at all. I don't want that. So China making Bitcoin mining illegal was helpful. It got rid of one area you could possibly attack Bitcoin. It got rid of it. Now mining is all over the rest of the world and not there. Perfect. I don't want it all happening in China. That's a central point of weakness. Central points of weakness are what disappear when governments attack Bitcoin, because they attack the central points of weakness. So what happens if governments come after Bitcoin in the West? What happens if the European Union or the North America, what happens if they say Bitcoin's illegal? That means they shut down the exchanges. If they shut down the exchanges, great. People aren't buying Bitcoin and uploading a fucking picture of their passport and driver's license with today's date, smiling like an idiot. That's not Bitcoin. That's not how it's supposed to be used at all. You can use it that way if you then go about it afterwards and clean your coins and you're very careful with your coin control and you know how to use CoinJoin. If you can do that, or you can trade in and out of an altcoin, or just buy using BISC in the first place so there's no KYC, or even mine at home. But this is the point. This new legislation that America is introducing, that Elizabeth Warren has put forward to regulate cryptocurrencies, like that's a whole industry, and we're not just talking about Bitcoin and a bunch of scams. They're talking about regulating cryptocurrency, and it's all been very vaguely worded. saying, you're going to have to do this if you even manufacture a wallet, not just exchanges that have to do KYC, but if you're a software developer, for fuck's sake, that writes for Umbrel or Start9 or something like that, you guys are now responsible. You're working in the money industry. You need licenses, maybe. And they haven't been clear about anything yet. But everyone's up in arms and everyone's going, call your senator, write to your congressman, do this, that, and the other. This is bad. It's going to hurt adoption. Bitcoin, bad. And I'm like, it's absolutely, demonstrably, obviously not. I want governments to attack Bitcoin, because that is the reality of the situation we're in anyway, and it doesn't help anyone if we pretend that's not the situation. Bitcoin was built to destroy banks, to destroy central banks, to destroy governments. I take back banks, because banks can still exist in a Bitcoin world, but central banks can't. And the separation of politicians, the separation of money and state is the whole point of this thing. And did you think they weren't going to fight us? Because if you did, and you thought that was a good thing and that Bitcoin wouldn't be able to handle it if they did, then you shouldn't own any. And that you might not even be wrong to think that Bitcoin can't survive these onslaughts. But if you do think it can't survive these onslaughts, sell and get out, because those onslaughts are guaranteed to happen. Bitcoin is an attack on the financial status quo. The financial status quo, by definition, benefits the richest, most kleptomaniac, crony capitalist in the world. The way the fiat economy is set up means that the richest people in the world are the least, have the least integrity, are the most compromised people possibly around. They are not about to give up without a fight. And this is where people get misled. They think, oh, but it's all right, that they'll sort of come to Bitcoin and just sort of adopt the practices that become a part of it and maintain the strength of the system. And Bitcoin can be changed. Bitcoin has the potential, if the wrong sorts of people buy it for the wrong sorts of reasons, and a lot of coins and a lot of coins end up in the hands of people like JP Morgan and, sorry to say it, MicroStrategy. These people don't care about censorship resistance. All they care about is deflation that is relatively reliable. And they don't understand that the reason Bitcoin is deflationary, and it's reliably deflationary, is because it's in an adversarial circumstance, or it has been up until it got embraced by the state. The adversarial circumstances that Bitcoin we're in means people have to adopt all these practices that maintain the resilience and the decentralization of the network. I.e., you have to run full nodes. You have to, all the exchanges are dodgy as fuck because this thing is operating in the legal gray areas. So you can't leave your Bitcoins on them. You have to have them under your own control. Great. That's how Bitcoin's supposed to be used. When it all gets regulated and it works properly and exchanges now are all squeaky clean and they don't get hacked as much anymore, people just leave their fucking coins on exchanges. And everything they do, you want to make a withdrawal? Okay. Coinbase probably sends an email to your damn Google Mail account, your Gmail account, with the address you requested the withdrawal to. Great. Now the exchange knows everything about you, your identity, where you live, where you're going to move. It knows how many coins you bought. It knows your bank account details. And when you made a withdrawal, it knows your address. Now so does your email provider. And let's be honest, 99% of people use bullshit email that sells all of your data, keeps record of everything. Bitcoin is not supposed to be used like this. People are DCAing, going to the same address repeatedly. All of this weakness leads Bitcoin vulnerable to attack. It means people don't bother to do the stuff that makes Bitcoin resilient. And if people don't bother to do that stuff, the only way they can get away with it is if it's embraced and legalized and regulated by the state. And it's the classic strategy that I'm always hammering on about on this channel. It's Microsoft embrace, extend, extinguish. If you want to kill something, you wrap your arms around it lovingly and then you squeeze the life out of it. You don't attack it head on, because then it just defends itself and wins. Bitcoin is designed to withstand attack. It's not really designed to withstand bifurcation that comes as a result of being embraced by the authorities and them forcing us all to use it in a way that's favorable to them. And the minute you give them an inch, you give them a mile. You cannot negotiate with these people. Marty Bent said it. You do not negotiate with terrorists. You don't sit there and say, oh, we need to maintain, Michael Saylor's invested a lot of money and the price is falling. We need to Tesla were helping us out. They bought loads of Bitcoin, then they sold it, or they didn't sell it, but they said they weren't going to accept it anymore because it's bad for the environment. So we need to set up a mining council and demonstrate. Please don't be mean to us. Please don't stop us from mining. We use lots of green energy. You cannot approach this with that mentality. Bitcoin was designed by people that said, fuck the state. We are going to take back we are going to assert our own independence. We are going to take it. We are not going to ask for it. If you come at this thing with that stupid attitude, you're just going to get mowed down flat by the authorities. Bitcoin was designed to resist it from the ground up, but it can't do that if people won't use it right. And people are discouraged from using it correctly, and I just see it. I see it on Clubhouse, on Spaces. Everyone is saying we're so scared. People are coming along. They're going to release all this punitive legislation. They're going to make it impossible to do this, that, and the other. And I'm so baffled that even some of the OGs I know are like, wow, this is scary. I'm thinking of selling for the first time in years. I'm like, how do you not get this yet? Every time Bitcoin is attacked, it survives the attack and just becomes harder to attack. That's it. The only reason Bitcoin can be attacked to the extent it can today is because of the lazy, poor practices of most of the people that use it. You have to use it properly, and the only thing you should actually be worried about in the Bitcoin space is lazy governments not attacking it, but instead just sort of allowing it to continue, and then the laziness and the apathy of people using it in ways where they just depend on third parties and they don't respect any of the mantras like not your keys, not your coins. They don't run a full node. They don't care about privacy. They use it in a lazy fashion. That is the only thing to be scared about, because it's just like the internet. It was the disappointment of all of the lofty goals of creating what the internet is, and then the fact that no one really cares to maintain it. Everyone just uses third parties for everything. The client-server model is dominant, but I mean, that's a tangent. Let's stick with Bitcoin here. Bitcoin has to be viewed, I have to say to you rationally, if you're scared about apparently on the surface level negative things happening to Bitcoin, you don't understand the first thing about Bitcoin. And that's the absolute God's honest truth. If you feel like, if you're feeling annoyed or defensive about this, try to just pause for a minute. And while I tell you one thing at least about why I have the opinions I do, it took me a long time to come to this conclusion. I definitely didn't like it. All of 2015, the China FUD, China saying it's going to be illegal, it filled me with dread every time. Like, I needed Bitcoin not to be attacked, but remember, it survived WikiLeaks and Silk Road. It survived everything. And it's not just that it survives these negative things, it's that it thrives on them. And you have to understand that as a fundamental part of its nature. That is what anti-fragility is, guys. And if you can't embrace that, then you're just going to be living in fear the whole time. And if you think that it's not really that anti-fragile, it actually does need a bit of support from the state, then it's not going to have it. That's what you need to realize. It's either going to get embraced to the point where it gets denatured and useless, because these number go up guys, these JP Morgans and MicroStrategies and all of these big investors, they might have the best of intentions right now, and they might be looking out for their own self-interest, which is, we need a hedge against inflation. This thing's perfect. It can't be inflated. Those guys don't realize that if they don't encourage the right kinds of practices, and if they try and work with legislators and they try and be all this stupid call to pragmatism and, oh, we live in the real world and we have to interface with politics, we're that big now, we have to do it. I'm sorry, guys, that doesn't last. If you want to have this quality you really appreciate about Bitcoin, which is it's got number go up technology, it can't ever collapse in value because of this decentralization. If you start liaising with these corrupt people and they put Bitcoin and they change the circumstances Bitcoin exists within to one where people can use it more conveniently and more legally, but to the detriment of Bitcoin's decentralization, what happens then is you eventually lose the deflation as well, because it becomes more centralized, And the more centralized it is, the more easier it is for Keynesians and socialists and all of these assholes to get involved in it and start influencing things. And eventually they will get their way. They will say there's going to be more Bitcoins and it's going to go to these people. And we're back to the same system again. Bitcoin only doesn't do that because of the way it's laid out right now. And it's only laid out the way it is right now because it's enjoyed and had the benefit of being excluded from the current system. People are trying to get it included. They don't realize we need to destroy the current system, and anything that remains from it needs to adopt Bitcoin. You don't try and participate in the broken system. That was always the whole point here. We built technology to root around a broken system. We don't want the broken system to embrace us because, I mean, this might seem frivolous, but don't, when you gaze into the abyss gazes back into you. You cannot fix a broken fiat system. You can make a new one and watch the fiat system collapse. Don't interact with it. Don't feed it. And this is just so. I'm compelled to talk about this because it feels like no one is getting it. Like everyone is disagreeing with me. Like actually, not everyone. I see some people go, yeah, fair enough. That is a good point. But what are you afraid of here? Because I'm really flabbergasted that anyone is sitting here going like, this legislation, it's going to hurt Bitcoin. This is so dangerous. Like, America's coming after us. Danger. I'm like, are you serious? You didn't expect this? Like, and you think, first off, you're wrong on two levels. Firstly, obviously this was going to happen. They are going to fight us. This thing is war. It's a declaration of war on central banking, the most powerful class ever to exist in human race. They're not just going to watch us eat their lunch in a decade and go, yeah, that's fine. They're not going to do it. And second off, if you haven't understood that it's actually good, then I don't know. It's just such a I genuinely wonder how people are so, committed and HODL and DCA and all this stuff. How are you into Bitcoin if that's your mentality? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I welcome the attacks, and you've got to remember, like when China kicked out all the miners, it was good, and the price fell because I thought that cleansed us. I thought all the people that were involved in Bitcoin for the wrong reason are now gone. Great. That's why Bitcoin remains ideologically committed by most of its users, because the people that don't get the ideology get flushed out when bad news happens and they all run for the hills. Meanwhile, Bitcoin gets stronger. So I always thought, that's kind of why the crashes are so great, because they maintain this clarity and this commitment and conviction and purpose that Bitcoiners have. But it seems to me still like there's all these people still in the space that are just buying Bitcoin and, they're like, this is fine, but if America turned around and made it illegal tomorrow, that would be bad. I'm like, what? That would do everything. That would make everyone stop using centralized shithole exchanges. It would make everyone use decentralized exchanges. It would make everyone get on Lightning. It would make everyone run a full node. It would make everyone adopt privacy practices. I mean, this is everything we want to see, and it's everything that makes the world look the way we want it to look. And remember, Bitcoin bootstrapped itself because governments made it impossible to donate money to WikiLeaks. Governments made it impossible to buy illegal drugs. I welcome all of these things. They're good. They are good for humanity. When states push us too far, we find genius methods of rooting around. Look at it like this. If someone says to you, it's the basic philosophy of being helped is bad for you. And it's good parenting to put your kid in a circumstance where they have to learn how to tie their own shoelaces. Otherwise, you understand long term, it's not good for them. So when you help someone, you hurt them, unless you do it very, very thoughtfully and consciously in a way where it's actually going to help them in the long run. Think long term with Bitcoin. Bitcoin can survive being made illegal by the most powerful superpowers in the history of humanity. Bitcoin will survive it, and the countries that do it will collapse. But if Bitcoin gets assisted and helped by these countries, it encourages these weak, crappy practices, and eventually maybe we end up with a bifurcated network where you really have a situation where coins can only be sold through regulated institutions or when you're selling Bitcoin through regulated institutions, you have to demonstrate where you bought them. And there's so much KYC that basically but people have adopted such lazy practices that it becomes practical for them to say to us, if you want to sell Bitcoin, this is how most people sell Bitcoin. They use this exchange, this exchange, this exchange, and it's fine. You have to have a license. You have to write off for this thing. You have to upload pictures of your government ID. You have to do all this stuff, but it's fine because only 10 or 20% of the people, of the coins rather, don't exist, weren't purchased within that system in the first place, so we just exclude them. If your coins come from a coin join, then we're not going to accept them as an exchange and we'll blacklist your account and you won't be able to sell those coins. You'll have to sell them for cash. And if you sell them for cash, which by the way isn't going to exist in a few years, we all know that, how are you going to sell it? You're going to sell it for what? I mean, in an entirely digital world, I don't know. That doesn't seem like... In order for a law to become unenforceable and for a way of life, for a way of life like freedom, if we want to see that, if we want to live in a free world, which so many of us want to do, people have to act free. Their existence has to emit freedom, and enough people have to do it that it becomes unenforceable to stop people doing it. If you see a guy walk down the street with no clothes on, it's very easy to see that he's just going to get arrested, right? But if everyone in your country just starts doing it, then they give up, right? We're not going to arrest everyone. Apparently nudity is just fine now, and it's completely unacceptable to make people cover up in public. I'm not advocating nudism. I'm just saying that what's legal is often just what's normal and what's recognized as, just a natural way to live. And the natural way to operate financially is without authorities breathing down your neck all the time. It's me, I have some money, I'm going to give you some money, you're going to give me a thing. That's it. And we've had so much ridiculousness, red tape, and I've got to report this, and I've got to do this and that, and there's a taxable event here and there, and you've got to give me a receipt, and I've got to look. You get a fucking receipt when you buy a coffee. Why? Why do you get a receipt when you buy a coffee or a donut? I'm not being Mitch Hedberg, but we don't need to bring ink and paper into this. I'm going to give you money, you're going to give me a donut. That's the end of it, right? But now there's all this accounting and all this stuff to go on, Bitcoin doesn't need to exist in that system. And when people if enough Bitcoin is inside the KYC system, Bitcoin can't really survive in the way it is right now. And the problem is the people who we keep looking up to and admiring and appreciating for going hard into it, like Michael Saylor and Elon Musk, at least when we were all, fangirl in Elon Musk. The point is, those people don't care about being outside the KYC system. They don't give a shit. They've got to report all their investments anyway. They're not even self-custodying. They're putting it all out to third parties like NYDIG and all that stuff. Yeah, Elon wrote something about I'm running a full node at Tesla, whatever. I mean, the guy's understanding of Bitcoin is awful, so I'm surprised he was even able to give us a nod like that. The point is, these people just like Bitcoin because it's a hedge against deflation. They don't care about anything else. And they might entertain the ideas for a while. I'm sure Michael Saylor's genuinely committed ideologically to Bitcoin, but he still hasn't understood that Bitcoin's qualities can't be maintained if people use Bitcoin in the capacity that they will use it if we carry on getting treated favorably and we lobby to get politicians to be nice to us. Because that encourages shitty practices, and shitty practices means bad health for the Bitcoin network. I'm sorry, if you are given, to finish my analogy, if you are helped, you are vulnerable. If no one helps you, you grow strong. That is just the absolute, it's wisdom that people have to understand. It's not necessarily logical or easy to understand, but it's wisdom, it's not intelligence, and there's a difference there. And it's something that took me years to understand and to learn. You can damage people by helping them because they can become dependent on your help. And if right now, most North Americans are very dependent on favorable legislation with regard to Bitcoin. They have dollar cost averaging strategies. They are signed up to regulated exchanges. Their whole Bitcoin strategy can go out the window in 5 minutes with the stroke of a pen in Congress. And that's not a good situation to be in. That means disruption. Exactly the same as the mining in China. It's no good for all of your mining to happen in China because that means we're now dependent on the continued goodwill of the Chinese authorities. And yes, we survived it when they kicked them out, and we realized this is a great thing in the long run. But again, we need it to happen. We need the attack, and we need to survive the attack, and then we're in a stronger position. Right now, we're in a really weak position, and what really sickens me is that people are upset that it might be coming to an end, and I'm saying, what are you talking about? Like, this is the fight. Like, watch them fight back, watch them lose, and adopt best practices. Go out and learn how to build a full node. Learn how to verify your own transactions. Learn how to be part of the network. Learn how to hide it behind the Tor network, if you want to. Figure it out. It's not that hard, and the more people do it, the stronger the Bitcoin network gets. And I don't want to tell people to do it. I don't want to appeal to their goodwill or their good nature. I want them to be forced to do it because the asshole authorities are cracking down. That is how they help us. And I mean this sincerely. If there are two politicians, one who wants to make favorable legislation for Bitcoin and one who just wants to destroy it, always vote for the one who wants to destroy it, because they will take out all of Bitcoin's weak points one by one. And that's what you want. That's what you need to see. Then you can sleep at night. Once that's happened, you can relax, because right now you can't relax. There's far too much crap in the Bitcoin network. Far too many people using it in a lazy, compliant manner. It's Wall-E. It's that stupid movie where everyone's just overweight and gorged, and it's not going to work. That is not strong. That is not resilient. Bitcoin is its users, and its users need to use it in a way where they are respecting their own self-sovereignty. And if they're not doing that, then we're in for a rude awakening. But what you should be rooting for is governments to stop making it easy for us and saying they need to close all the shortcuts and the conveniences, because they're just hurting us. They're making everyone just use this so badly. Look, I don't mean to belabor the point, but I'm compelled to talk on this because I just see everyone at the moment, even OGs, being like, scary. Like, we've had such a good run of it. America's been cool. You've got. I want to look back in a year and be like, wow, can you remember that time when you could just buy Bitcoin on Coinbase or Swan or River or, I want everyone to look back at that and be like, that was insane. I can't believe they were letting us get away with that. And, it was so easy back then. Now it's also difficult, but difficult is indicative of the fight happening. I mean, we had Donald Trump last year say, Bitcoin is an attack on the US dollar. He said that black and white. And I was like, finally, that's the way they should see it. I want them to see it that way. That's what it is. And we benefit from fighting and winning. We don't benefit from them embracing us. Please remember that. I hope that makes sense. Almost everyone disagrees with me, but I can't let this go. Because I know this is the correct perspective. And the reason I know this is the correct perspective is because I used to have the opposite point of view. I used to worry about Bitcoin. I used to be like, we need this to happen, we need this to happen. If this happens, that would be terrible. Now I realize I was basically upside down the entire time. And because I wasn't really understanding what anti-fragility is. Not that I want to give any shout outs to Taleb, because he's just such a complete mess at the moment. But anti-fragility is a powerful concept. Bitcoin is a perfect manifestation of the principles of anti-fragility. And anti-fragility doesn't mean tough. It means I get stronger when I am attacked. And Bitcoin gets stronger when it's attacked. I'm so glad that all of the attacks that have happened to Bitcoin have happened and it's survived them all, because I needed to see that to have the faith I have in Bitcoin that I do now. But if Bitcoin just gets given this easy, free ride, you got to understand that just means it becomes another tool for the super rich, because they will just say, here's all the legislation for Bitcoin. We're going to make it really annoying to use for 99% of people and the best inflation hedge ever invented for the top 1%. And eventually the whole system just falls apart anyway, and they don't care because we're back to fiat and they can just find some other way to manipulate everything to their advantage again. And humanity loses its one shot at kicking out these people and stopping the rigged game. So that would be tragic, and I don't want it to happen. And people are pushing us in the wrong direction. People need to embrace warfare with the state, because they're not going to go away. They are at war with us already. Look at what's going on in the free world right now. Look at Australia. Australia is a prison island now. You've got, my friend lives there. He's like, There's armies in the street now, stopping people from walking outside, breaking curfew. There's helicopters circling around neighborhoods where people are known to be violating lockdowns and stuff. They are at war with us, and we are at war with them. And Bitcoin is a great weapon because, there's every reason that financial freedom is a great way to maintain liberty against a completely pathological state. And this is a war, guys. So accept it and realize that Bitcoin's been built to win this war. Don't ask them to be nice to us because they're not going to be nice to us. And if they are, it will only be temporary and it will leave us without our guard up. You need to understand that this is a fucking war. Bitcoin is not supposed to be a simple thing, and it's not supposed to be easy. It's not for the faint of hearted. So my one point that I want anyone to remember from this video, 2 points. First point is we benefit from being under attack. It strengthens us. But secondly, if you think Bitcoin can't survive these attacks and that it needs to be defended and you need to contact politicians and ask them to be nicer to us, you might be right. But why the hell do you own any Bitcoin if you think that? Because they are definitely going to attack us. They are definitely going to come after us. They're not all just going to buy it and then be like, oh, this is fine. Because this is ultimately what people haven't really thought through to the end with when it comes to Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin is dominant and powerful, and it's the apex predator of deflationary currencies. It's the dominant monetary network of the planet. Yes, this is all true, but and that leads to even the authorities saying, all right, well, I'm going to get one up on you. Like, yeah, I don't like Bitcoin giving freedom to my population, of course, but I also don't like that country over there, and I can get a heads up on it, if I adopt Bitcoin, like Russia and China and places that maybe have a problem with the dominance of the US dollar. Bitcoin is a tool for them to use against them. But what these people what is not understood is that if the authorities, if the politicians, if the billionaires adopt Bitcoin because it's just such a good tool, they don't understand that the tool eventually will fall apart. It will run through their fingers like sand if the network doesn't maintain the values it has at the moment. And their adopting it is part of the attack, and they don't realize they're destroying the very system that they might be temporarily embracing, even if it's not intentional. So this is a very important point to remember. What I went through in my thought process was, they're going to hate us, they're going to attack us, they're going to, propaganda war against us, they'll win, they're going to launch a shitcoin like Ethereum and just push it and push it and push it because they can influence that and control it. Like, yeah, all of these things have happened, but eventually I used to comfort myself with the notion that Bitcoin is so good and it's so powerful that politicians and billionaires will all adopt it, and then they will make legislation that's favorable to Bitcoin, and then we all win. Except that's where I was wrong, because they don't make stuff that's favorable to Bitcoin. It's not that simple. What they do is they make it easy for themselves, but they don't make it easy for everyone. They don't do stuff that is good for just Bitcoin and therefore them. They do stuff that makes Bitcoin work for them very well, but in a short-term basis, and ultimately just damages Bitcoin, the network, in the long term. They don't necessarily realize that, but politicians famously don't have, long-term thinking is not relevant to a politician. But the billionaires also just don't understand. And what Michael Saylor is doing is unfortunately a massive misunderstanding. He's lobbying to get favorable treatment from politicians. He's trying to pander to the ESG crowd, and what he's doing there is he's unfortunately creating a situation where Bitcoin is set up to fail in a longer term capacity, even if it looks favorable in the short term. So I'm just encouraging everyone to think long term here. Bitcoin can survive 20 years of being squashed all over the world with illegality and all that. It can survive it, and as a result, it will just become the strongest, most resilient thing you've ever possibly imagined. And it won't do that if it's not put in that circumstance. I'm sorry, it just can't. So seriously, vote for the people that would make Bitcoin illegal. Vote for the people that would say, 80% tax on any transaction conducted with crypto. Vote for them, because then people have to stop doing all this lazy shit and stop treating Bitcoin like it's just some other investment. Unfortunately, we're going to get a lot of that, of course, because people have to invest in something. So a lot of people are investing in Bitcoin because, it makes sense without the ideology. But the ideology is essential. You have to be a cypherpunk when you look at Bitcoin. If you're not, you're just not here for the right reasons, and you're just not really helping. And this is the thing: the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It really is, and it's more wisdom. The path to hell is certainly paved with good intentions, and these people that want to help us in the short term do nothing but harm. We need to. What I want to see is people being forced. If you want to mine, you can't do it in a big institution. You can't do it that way. Like, people are like celebrating the fact that all the miners are KYC and AML anyway. It's fine. America is fine with mining. How awesome. Like, I don't know. I think I made my point. Please try and view it that way, because it's good for Bitcoin. And it's good for your mental health too. You don't want to worry about Bitcoin needing favorable treatment from the authorities, because it's not going to get it. And when it doesn't get it, it will thrive in the negative circumstances. So, yeah, apologies if I'm repeating myself a lot in this video. I think it's worth doing. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. See you later, guys.